Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 112, coming at you from the Valley. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for this weekly MMA podcast, streaming anywhere you get podcasts and videos on YouTube. We have quite a show this week, fights that have been announced, recap the PFL, preview this week's PFL, talk about the Contender Series, recap the awesome UFC 319 card, and then preview UFC Shanghai that will be happening early in the morning. I will not be watching that live, but we'll still recap it for you next week, and then a week off of MMA. So some fights that have been announced. We have Usman Nurmagomedov taking on Paul Hughes in their rematch October 3rd for the PFL. Finally, they did something right. I felt like they should have booked that an immediate rematch, but it's a fight that they have to do to keep relevancy. I am super excited for this fight, and I just have a feeling Paul Hughes is going to get the job done, but I'm super excited for that on October. In the UFC, we have Patricio Pitbull taking on Loseni Kita, who's a 27-year-old Octagon champ, September 6th. So the UFC signing an Octagon fighter, throwing him in against the Pitbull. Pitbull could use some wins, I guess, and I have no idea the quality of Kita, but Octagon has some quality fighters. Will be interesting to see. We have Rob Font taking on Raul Rosas Jr. September 13th at UFC Noche. That's an absolute banger. We're getting Raul at a very young age getting thrown against some of the stiffer competition in the bantamweight division. We have Kelvin Gastelum taking on Dustin Stoltzfus, also at UFC Noche. Solid fight between two veterans. September 27th, we have Jamie Malarkey and Rolando Bedoya. October 11th, we got Davison Figueiredo taking on Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson finally getting some top 15 quality opponents. And then, pretty quick turnaround here. We get Renier de Ridder taking on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, October 18th, the main event in Vancouver, Canada. Man, what a fight that's going to be. Two solid grapplers, cardio machines. Very intrigued for that main event. Also added to Vancouver, Mr. Canada, Mike Malott taking on Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland just trying to, fight 6 times this year. No big deal. Very tough opponent in Mike Malott, though. See if he can continue to win, keep his winning ways in his home country. And then also the UFC signing another out-of-promotion fighter for a new face. We get Patchy Mix taking on Jacob Wicklach, a 28-year-old KSW champ for UFC 320. So 2 new names coming in, now getting 2 new names. A little curious about those signings, but they must think somewhat highly of them, or they're just trying to build their stock back up. And then this Friday, we have the road to the UFC semis, so we will talk about that when we recap UFC Shanghai as well. In other MMA news, Gable Steveson officially making his MMA debut. LFA will be the promotion September 12th in his home state, Minnesota, where he wrestled. Gable Steveson, an amazing wrestler, Olympic wrestler, trained with John Jones and prepped for his last fight. Really intrigued to see this kid at heavyweight. I feel like he has a ton of potential. But after not working out in the WWE, not working out in the NFL, hopefully he finally finds something to stick to because he's too much of an athletic talent to not be doing anything. This week at the PFL, we had Alfie Davis with the unanimous decision over Godzi Rabananov. Little shocked about that one. I thought Godzi would get the job done, but I'm not too shocked because I wasn't going to put a bet on this knowing that Alfie Davis has potential, but very impressive fight by him over the course of 5 rounds. We had Liz Carmouche with a round 3 knockout At like 42 years old, Liz still doing the damn thing, getting finishes over Jenna Bishop, Alfie Davis, Liz Carmouche, as well as this man getting the $500,000 grand prize. Marceli Alves with the unanimous decision over Justin Wetzel. That was a pretty crazy back and forth bout. So some new names getting paid out, a little bit of, some surprise to the way the tournament happens. But every time they have the tournament, there's weight misses, Magomedov right away. There's injuries. It never really transpires. And honestly, none of it's really jumped off the paper for me like, golly, I really need to watch this. But I am a little shocked about the Godzi fight. Liz Carmouche getting it done. I do like Marceli Alves. He's pretty fun to watch. Other places on the card, we had Robert Watley with a round 3 TKO over Mads Burnell. And then we had Juliana Velasquez with the unanimous decision over Ekaterina Shakalova. So some ex-UFCers doing some work. This week's PFL on Thursday, we have the middleweights, light heavyweights, and heavyweights. This is in Hollywood, Florida. Prelims at 3 p.m. ESPN plus main card 6 p.m. ESPN. I'm more excited about this card. We have Fabian Edwards taking on Dalton Rosta. I think that's a great bout. I'm expecting Leon Edwards' brother to get the job done. We have Sullivan Cauley taking on Antonio Carlos Jr. To be honest, I don't know much about either man. Elsewhere, we have Alexander Romanov taking on Oleg Popov. Romanov getting in here for getting hit in the nuts in a disqualification. Has not looked great. I'll take Popov. And then we have Impa Kasaganai taking on Andrew Sanchez. Give me Impa. And Josh Silveria taking on Murad Ramazanov. I'll take Silveria in that one. But the fight I want you to tune into, Wyoming Collegiate Wrestling stud MMA Lab Zone. Bryce Meredith, undefeated in the PFL, taking on another solid wrestler, a Cuban national wrestler, Lazaro Dayron, who's also undefeated. Both of these guys I think will be studs in the 135-pound weight class for PFL moving on into next year. This week's Contender Series. Much like last year, episode 1 last week definitely started off slow. Dana had to tell the guys what it is. There was only one contract awarded last week. Well, in this week, every fight winner got a contract, and even a loser on one of the bouts is talking about, having a second chance if someone pulls out, that he'll be able to continually fight through this season of the Contender, as it's only the second episode. But we had Ramiro Jimenez with a round 1 TKO over Tommy Cuozzi, a dominant victory in the featherweight division. The Mexican prospect now moves to 10-0. I thought Ramiro looked great. We had the very cringy Josh Hokit with a round 2 TKO over Guilherme Uriel. He had easy takedowns, solid wrestling at heavyweight. He came in like Macho Man, looked like Colby Covington with the cringe-worthy sayings and character that he's playing. Will be interesting to see how he does in the UFC, but definitely I don't think he needs the shtick, so to speak. We had Lewis Lee Scott with a round 3 TKO over Kaushik Sakumar. This was a striker versus grappler fight at bantamweight, but Scott got it done. I thought Scott looked great, changing stances. He was very bouncing, in and out of distance, controlling where the fight went. Used a lot of fakes, kind of those twitchy hip fakes, kick fakes. Reminded me a little bit of the Sugar Show with his flow. Very interested to see him in the UFC. We had Cameron Rouston with a round 1 TKO over Brandon Holmes. This is his second Contender Series chance, as he lost to Torres Finney last year, but looked great in this fight. He trains with City Kickboxing. They talked about potentially getting him on the UFC Perth card. A quick turnaround, much like we saw from the Chechen on the Kamzat card. And then we had Jose Delano with the unanimous decision over Manuel Exposito. Fucking fantastic fight. Although this fight went to a decision, Delano looked absolutely amazing throughout the entire 15 minutes. But Exposito showed his grit, his heart, his durability, just the overall toughness. I do think Delano's going to be a great featherweight prospect. Exposito just met his match, but most guys would have, crumbled up like a tin can and gave up to a TKO. he hung in there and battled, and I think that's why the UFC is going to give him another shot in the Contender Series. But much improved from week 1. The PFL, decent card, nothing great. Hoping this weekend over-delivers. But let's talk about the pay-per-view. UFC 319. I went 8-4 on my picks. So overall, we're at 689 wins, 341 losses, 9 no contests and draws. On the year, 205 wins, 100 losses, 2 no contests and draws. Still doubling up those loss columns. And to recap the card, I mean, there was definitely some dominoes here. There was supposed to be 15 fights, short notice fight, the Contender Series, matchmaking. But what really killed me was losing the Brian Battle and Sultan Ruzaboev fight due to Brian Battle, of all people, coming in overweight, even though he was moving up weight classes for this fight. And the UFC has actually cut him just today. So, you know, he's missed weight a couple times. Again, he's fighting up at middleweight, not welterweight. And they lose a very good fight, and a very good fighter put all that work in, made weight and everything, and he doesn't get his purse either. So the UFC just said, screw it, cutting the Ultimate Fighter champion, which could not be easy to do. And then we lost Diego Fajeda and King Green due to King being injured in the middleweight Ultimate Fighter fight. Pretty bummed about that, you know. I thought the Fajeda King Green fight was going to be awesome. And the middleweight Ultimate Fighter fight, I thought the Swedish dude who is very violent was going to put on a fun show. I think that's got rebooked already. But yeah, the Battle and Ruzaboev fights are very exciting. I thought the card lost some of its lust because of that. But the fights for the rest of the night were action-packed, lots of highlight finishes. But the main event was a dud, to say the least. You know, I did enjoy some wars, some guys' fights, went back and forth a little bit. But there wasn't a lot of evenly contested, like, tune-in bouts. So for that reason, I am recapping this a 7 out of 10. Before all these fight drops, I had actually previewed it a 9 out of 10. That's how hyped I was. So yeah, some good fights we did not break down. For the Flyweight Ultimate Fighter Championship, Joseph Morales gets his second stint with the UFC with a round 2 submission via triangle choke over Alibi Idris. And honestly, he looked better than he did throughout the Ultimate Fighter in this fight. Really put on a show, showed up, showed out. And then the short notice Contender Series fighter, of course he gets the job done, by Sangar Susurkayev with a round 2 submission via rear naked choke over Eric Nolan. I had actually picked Eric Nolan to win, and he actually looked really good in the first round, but then he got taken down, got put in a bad place. Things changed quickly in the second. But I thought Susurkayev a little overrated, and I think Nolan showed that he does have some holes. But let's kick this off. In the prelims, a fight I got wrong. We had Drakkar Klose with the unanimous decision over Edson Barboza. And the way I'd sum this fight up is that, you know, Edson's age is catching up to him. I think he's just taken too much damage in his fighting career because Drakkar Klose put on a striking clinic versus him. And Barboza didn't do much about it. I really respect Drakkar and his skills, but, you know, Edson is up there with the best of them when it comes to kickboxing. And he had no defense, no energy, no aggression. I mean, we expected Drakkar to look for takedowns here. He didn't even need to resort to grappling. You know, the fight did end up against the cage a lot, but because he was doing so much work with his hands. You know, as the fight wore on, Edson actually was the guy that was welcoming the clinch, being down on the scorecards. You know, those are easy transitions to wrestling. I was very confused. But I think Drakkar's big shot that he landed him early had him not wanting to deal with that. And he wasn't very offensive. He was just kind of grinding his way through the fight. But you have to credit Drakkar's pressure and power. You know, it seemed like Edson did not want that smoke. And Edson has moved up to the lightweight, or this isn't lightweight, is it? Whatever division this was. Because he can't keep cutting weight as he's getting older. Yeah, so lightweight, he used to be a featherweight fighter. I don't think that helped him either. I mean, regardless, massive win for Drakkar Klose. I do think Edson with this looks like he's on the brink of retirement and maybe has one more fight left in him. Statistically, Edson only landed 73 total strikes, 71 of them significant. He had 3 minutes and 50 seconds of control time. And Drakkar landed 147 total, 53 significant, was 0 for 2 in takedowns, and had 2 minutes and 33 seconds of control time. So Drakkar starts a new winning streak. He's 3-1 since 2023. And Edson extends his losing streak to 2. He's 2-2 since 2023. So what's next? Well, I think if the King and Diego fight isn't rebooked, I'd love to see Drakkar take on Diego Ferreira. And for Edson, again, I hope he's on his way to retirement. So how about a veteran showdown against Jim Miller at lightweight? Moving on, a little bit of underdog love. I had a feeling Alexander Hernandez with a round 1 knockout over Chase Hooper. And Chase, although he's young, he's been with the UFC for some time. He is a lot longer and taller than Alexander. And he was trying to use that to his advantage at the beginning of the fight. But Hernandez was not only able to defend Chase's takedown attempts, but he was able to be patient, and he had good movement, was very sound defensively. But then you could tell Hernandez's game plan was to wait for an opening, wait for Chase to be overzealous, load up for a big shot, and boy, did he have a fantastic counter right. Clean knockout. Chase was lunging in. He got caught. Big win for Alexander Hernandez. Definitely a good learning moment for Chase. You know, these things are only going to make him so much better. You know, 2 years ago, he was not a striker at all. He was pulling guard in the middle of the octagon. Now he's trying to use his length, control the pace. But against a veteran like this, you got to be cautious. You get caught lunging in, you know, it's the end of the night for you. But he is becoming more comfortable as a striker, so good things for both men. Statistically, Chase landed 20 total and significant strikes, was 0 for 2 in takedowns. And Alexander landed 18 total strikes, 17 of them significant with a knockdown. So Alexander extends that winning streak to 3. He is 4-2 since 2023. And Chase ends his 5-fight winning streak. What's next? I would love to see Alexander Hernandez take on Chris Duncan. I think that's a banger. And for Chase, how about Daniel Zellhuber? It doesn't get easier for him as he moves on in the lightweight division. Then we had Lupi Godinez with a unanimous decision over Jessica Andrade. And it was just classic Bate Estaca. You know, Jessica throwing massive combos, wide loopy hooks, firing down from her hips. The problem for her was the first 2 rounds, Lupi was just sticking and moving, head movement, sticking and moving, and landing very crisp boxing technique. And she was just the faster striker. But when Jessica landed, you could definitely feel the power difference. But Lupi was in control of the fight for the first 2 rounds. In round 2, she actually got a takedown, had some good control time, was definitely up 2-0 going into the 3rd round. But in the 3rd, Jessica was nonstop pressuring Lupi in her face, was able to stick and move, and Lupi was starting to slow down from doing that. And every time she went for takedowns, because Jessica was just kind of stalking her down and throwing some heat, clearly wasn't, you know, as tired as Lupi. Lupi would try for a takedown, Jessica would stuff it. Lupi didn't know what to do, and she had her face pretty beat up. You know, she had her cut up, but the only way Jessica was going to win this fight was with a finish, and she wasn't able to do that. Lupi was too good for that. You know, she did get a takedown at the very end of the round to try to avoid being finished as well when she seemed rock. But either way, massive win for Lupi. You know, Jessica now in a brutal spot in her career, but massive win for Lupi Godinez. Statistically, Jessica landed 97 total strikes, 90 of them significant, and I swear at least half those were in the 3rd round. She was 0 for 1 in takedowns, and Lupi landed 119 total, 107 significant. She had 1 takedown in 14 attempts at 1 minute and 33 seconds of control time. So Lupi extends her winning streak to 2. She is 6-2 since 2023. She drops 4 spots in the rankings to number 9. And Jessica extends the losing streak to 3. She is 3-6 since 2023 and moves up 5 spots in the rankings to number 6. So at the top of the division pretty much of facing each other, I would love to see Lupi take on Yan Xiaonan. And for Jessica, I do think she needs to stay at the strawweight division. So how about fellow veteran Amanda Ribas, who she has not yet faced? Then in the prelim headliner, we had Mike McCall Oleksiejczuk with a round 2 TKO over Gerald Meerschaert. And much like I had thought coming into this fight, GM3 just seems to be on his way out. You know, he didn't really get anything going. He looked super slow in there. And McCall just pressured him, didn't have any answers to his striking. GM3 just kind of sat there and took it, tried to pull guard. And again, he was just way too slow. McCall made him pay. I mean, even the takedown attempts from GM3 were like slow-mo and super ugly looking. But McCall has some life to him now. You know, moving to the Fighting Nerds. It seems like he's resurrected. It seemed like he was on his way out, although he is entering his prime a year ago. And I think, much like the other veterans, GM3, let's do one more in a retirement fight. But pretty dominant, quick TKO for Michal Oleksiejczuk. Statistically, Gerald only landed 3 total insignificant strikes while going 0 for 3 in takedowns. He landed just as many strikes as takedown attempts missed, which is pretty wild. Oleksiejczuk landed 23 total insignificant strikes with the knockdown. So Michal extends his winning streak to 2. He is 3-4 since 2023. So still, you know, a rough couple years, but he's on the right track. And Gerald extends his losing streak to 3. He is 2-5 since 2023. So he has been active. But what's next? McCall called for Marvin Vettori. I don't think he's going to be able to just jump into the top 15 like that. You know, 3-4 since 2023, was on a 3-fight skid. So I'll say maybe a Roman Kopylov or Cesar Almeida would be the fight to make. And for GM3, how about Tresean Gore? Both of them fighting for a roster spot in his retirement fight. Then in the main card, a little bit of a surprise, not a major surprise to me, but the veteran with all the time off, Tim Elliott, round 2 submission via guillotine choke over Kai Asakura. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Tim. Welcome back, man. And I think it was a little bit of a surprise to me because Kai wasn't ready for the movement and the grappling that Tim had to offer. Like I said, he had prepared for this at the Pantoja fight. I figured there'd be, you know, enough time. It wasn't quite enough time. When the fight was standing, you know, Kai did land some good strikes, but he didn't look confident as he couldn't find the range and the timing for Tim because he's all over the place. And then every time he came forward with forward momentum, Tim would make him pay, blast double leg, single leg, got him down pretty easily. I mean, really good showcase for Tim Elliott. You know, he's been out for some time. Plus getting a round 2 submission, even more surprising. Very tough start for Kai Asakura. Seemed like he was thought very highly of, getting right into the title shot. Now you're outside the top 15 and a lot of room to prove yourself. Statistically, Tim landed 42 total strikes, 27 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns in 3 attempts, 2 submission attempts, and 1 minute and 54 seconds of control time. And Kai landed 38 total strikes, 21 of them significant. So Tim now on a 2-fight winning streak, 3-1 since 2023. He moves up 1 spot in the rankings to number 10. And Kai extends his losing streak to 2, 0-2 in the UFC, 2-2 since 2023, and of course exits the top 15. So what's next for these gentlemen? I'm thinking Tim and fellow veteran Alex Perez, while Kai can look to rebound against Cody Durden. Moving on, what a performance here, a fight I got wrong. Michael Page with a unanimous decision over Jared Cannonier. And boy, oh boy, did we get prime MVP in this fight. I mean, he had Jared shook. He was too fast, too elusive, and was just able to put his hands all over Jared in round 1 and sat him down early, which I think changed the entire fight. You know, Jared finally was able to get a takedown in round 2. He controlled MVP pretty well, but he didn't do enough damage, wasn't offensive enough, and MVP stole a close round. But then Jared got another takedown in round 3, did have some good control time, won the round, but being down 2 rounds, it wasn't enough. But it was all about the movement in and out of Michael Venom Page, that precise shot, sat Jared down. The rest of the fight, Jared was trying to close distance without getting hit. Finally got one in round 2, didn't do enough. Controlled almost the entire round 3, but was down 2 rounds. Statistically, Jared landed 46 total strikes, 20 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns and 7 attempts. MVP did a great job defensively, and he had 8 minutes and 14 seconds of control time. Now, MVP landed 36 total strikes, 29 of them significant with the knockdown. They didn't officially give him a knockdown, but that was absolutely a knockdown. I mean, he got sat down. But Michael now extends his winning streak to 2. He is 4-1 since 2023. They actually put him out of the welterweight rankings into the middleweight rankings at number 10, although it seems like he's going to go to welterweight full time. And Jared starts a new losing streak. He is 2-3 since 2023. He moves down 2 spots in the rankings to number 11. Definitely tough for him at 40 plus years old. So what's next? Well, it seemed like there was a lot of momentum around Carlos and MVP. That seems like a layup, although short turnaround for Rio. MVP does want to stick at welterweight. I think the big thing will be, can he make weight in that time? And it's a climb up the rankings for him. And for Jared, he could square off with fellow veteran Roman Dolidze. But speaking of Prates, we had Carlos Prates with a round 1 knockout over Jeff Neal. Performance of the night, 50 G's. And this was a fun back and forth affair while the fight lasted. I actually wish it would have went all 15 minutes. I think we would have saw an awesome fight. And Jeff would have put Carlos in places he wasn't fully prepared for. But man, Carlos timed up a spinning elbow, almost a spinning like back hammer fist that completely shut Jeff's lights off. I mean, again, I felt like this was about to be a fun fight. Wish we could have seen Neal pressuring Prates, especially in rounds 2 and 3. But Carlos was bouncy. He was finally patient, and it paid off. I mean, the highlight of this fight to me was the post UFC press conference. Carlos came in smoking a cig. Lemro Murphy would come in, was like, is someone smoking in here? And Dana was like, is someone smoking in here? I mean, Carlos Prates, what a character. What a fucking night at a sold-out United Center, Chicago, going absolutely bonkers. Statistically, Jeff landed 26 total and 25 significant strikes, was 0 for 1 in takedowns, and Carlos landed 32 total and significant with the knockdown. So, Carlos starts a new winning streak. He's 6-1 in the UFC, moves up 3 spots in the rankings to number 9. And Jeff starts a new losing streak. He moves to 1-3 since 2023 and moves down 1 spot to number 12. So again, I think let's turn him around. Let's give us Carlos and MVP. I think that's an absolutely fantastic fight. And for Jeff, a showdown with fellow veteran Daniel Rodriguez, I think would be amazing. But the man of the hour in the co-main event, I tried to tell y'all, Lerone Murphy with a round 1 knockout over Aaron Pico. Performance of the night, 50 G's. And you want to talk about the lights completely off? What Lerone Murphy did was absolutely insane. It sounded like someone had hit a watermelon with a baseball bat. It was absolutely vicious. But at the start of the fight, it seemed like it was going to be a very fun, high-paced fight. Aaron came in pretty aggressive, pressuring Lerone, and was looking for takedowns. Murphy's, he's hard to hold down. He's up and down. His cardio's insane. He's in fantastic shape. Aaron wasn't going to be able to keep him down. He kept getting back up. But then Lerone was able to create distance, and as he was lunging in for a shot, timed a perfectly spinning elbow that completely hit the fucking mark and destroyed Pico. Soul out of the body, fell like a sack of potatoes. Tough to see. He was down for some time. Seems like he's going to be okay. But man, for Lerone Murphy, they showed him video practicing in the locker room before the fight. He had talked about him and his coach. He had visualized it. He knew that's exactly what was going to happen. Again, there's levels to this game. I think Aaron Pico is going to be a force, but Lerone Murphy's that dude, man. What an absolute amazing night for him. In another fight, I wish we could have saw go 15 minutes. But it only took Lerone 8 total and significant strikes. He had the submission attempt and a knockdown. And then Aaron landed 13 total and significant, was 2 for 3 in takedowns with 2 minutes and 1 seconds of control time. So now Murphy stays undefeated. He extends his winning streak to 17, 6-0 since 2023. Fucking stud. He moves up 2 spots in the rankings to number 4. And Aaron ends his 3-fight winning streak, starts a new losing streak, 0-1 in the UFC. And when it comes to the title, I mean, it seems like Movsar is kind of being blackballed from the title shot. Volk is open to fighting Murphy. He knows Murphy is a, battle-tested opponent. He's ready. I fully believe he's done enough. 6-0 since 2023, 17 fight winning streak. I mean, let's make it happen. Love to see Lerone Murphy and Volkanovski this year. And for Aaron, I'd assume he's going to be out for some time, but I'd like to see him come back and fight somebody like Danny Silva. Then in the main event, I thought this was one of the more anticipated fights the UFC could make, but it was just smashing Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev with a unanimous decision over Dricus du Plessis. Performance of the night, 50 G's and new. I mean, you want to talk about a dud. Khamzat was all over DDP 5 seconds from the start of the fight, and that was it, man. Not only was he able to continually just take DDP down each round and hold him there, but he had him in a crucifix 3 times. To me, for a former champion with multiple title defenses, honestly, that's pretty embarrassing. You should not be able to get stuck in a crucifix once, let alone multiple times. It's like the new guy you bring into jiu-jitsu. You put him in a move, you're like, haha. I mean, that's crazy. You got to credit Khamzat. It's just, his world, we're living it. But, hey, credit to Chimaev. He held up well for 25 minutes. He did have top control the entire fight to stay fresh, so I don't feel like that was a huge cardio statement. And to add to it, I thought what was probably even more embarrassing was the so-called landed strikes total for Chimaev, which in my opinion might be the worst ratio of effective strikes of all time because he barely touched DDP over and over. You got a guy in a crucifix, like one big elbow, he just did this the entire time. Like barely doing anything. It was just such a weird night, man. Again, crucifix 3 times, brutal. The energy to try to get out of that, insane. But to have it 3 times and do no damage, absolutely even more insane. It's fucking crazy. But you got to credit DDP. He didn't give up. He continued to fight. Each round when it was standing, as the fight wore on, he did have some momentum. But okay, I've been crucifixed 2 times. It's round 4. I need to finish. He comes in, bop, 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 landed some shots. We don't need to keep coming forward to open the takedown. Take your time, bro. Keep the space, control the space, couple combos in and out. He was coming forward, Khamzat back to the takedown. I mean, it was insane. But not many people could have been crucifixed like that, exerted the energy that DDP did, and keep fighting. I mean, in some of the late rounds, DDP had the good striking, but again, was just too aggressive. I think if he would have been more patient, he could have had some better shots. But at the end of the day, I thought DDP would have had better takedown defense, especially being a naturally bigger guy. But boy, was I wrong. I mean, again, Chimaev's wrestling is an absolute force. It's Chimaev's world now. He's the fucking champion like he said he would be. And we're just living in it. Beautiful or not, he's getting it done. I thought it was pretty fucking pathetic. I would not feel good to win that way. But hey, it is what it is. When we break down the stats, pretty wild. DDP only landed 45 total strikes in 25 minutes, 13 significant. He had a takedown of his own, a submission attempt, and 53 seconds of control time. Now, Khamzat landed 529 strikes. Only 37 of them significant, 24 more than DDP. But he did have 12 takedowns and 17 attempts. That's some work, man. And if he wanted it, he got it. And 21 minutes and 40 seconds of control time, all but 3 minutes and 20 seconds of the fight. So DDP ends that 11 fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak, moves to 9-1 in the UFC, drops to the number 1 contender spot. And Khamzat is now the reigning champion. The title fight is kind of an interesting situation because there's technically a couple fights booked now. We have Fluffy RDR, Nasruddin Imavov, and Kyle Baralho. I honestly think the winner of Imavov Baralho would get the next shot. But if Fluffy or RDR do something absolutely fantastic, they could skip the line. For the better potential against Khamzat, I would say, I mean, Imavov Baralho, I think either winner of that is the better shot. I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But I think it's going to be the winner of the Imavov fight next. And for Dricus, I mean, he's fought a lot of the top guys. I'm guessing a rematch with Sean Strickland will be next in store for him. But what a card. I mean, Chicago was crazy. I wanted to go in person. The tickets were too expensive. I was there for work, flew back Saturday morning, got to come home, watch the fights. I mean, some quick knockouts. I thought the Lupi Godinez fight was fun. Couple quick finishes. Tim Elliott, welcome back, MVP. Looking classic MVP. Protest, Murphy. Then the main event with the fights falling, it lost some of its luster, in my opinion. I guess I just had too high of expectations for the main event. But this weekend, early in the morning, UFC Shanghai, China. The prelims at 12 a.m. Pacific, main card 3 a.m. Pacific on ESPN+. Now this is some solid matchups in the prelims. We get the final 3 fights on the main card, absolutely fantastic fights. There is some good young talent to watch. For a fight night, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, which is actually pretty impressive. A couple fights we will not break down. We get Road to the UFC alum Xiao Long taking on Su Yong Yu. And then we have Sumaderi taking on Kevin Borjas. That should be a fun one. But let's kick it off in the prelims. We get Michelle Demolidor Pereira, 31 years old with a 31-13-2 record, taking on Kyle the Darce Knight Dawkins, 32 years old with an 11-4 record. Welcome back, Kyle Dawkins. He's been out of the UFC since 2022. He finished on a 2-fight losing streak where he was finished in both fights. He moved on to Cage Fury and strung together 3 wins in the middle of his prime as he's 32 right now. And he's taken on a deadly striker who is a little kind of desperate right now, especially after being dominated by Anthony Hernandez. But he is still maturing as a fighter. I just think he's too talented for Kyle, in my opinion. But breaking it down, Michelle has a black belt in BJJ and karate. 4 of his last 6 fights have been performance of the night, fight of the night. The guy absolutely shows up and shows out. He'll be doing cartwheel kicks and all kinds of crazy shit. He's a Jungle Fight alum. 11 of his 31 wins have been via knockout, 9 via submission. So 20 of his 31 wins via finish. And Kyle also has a black belt in BJJ and a purple belt in Muay Thai. He's a king of the cage, Cage Fury, former champion with 2 successful title defenses 2 separate times. He's also a Contender Series alum. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, all with Cage Fury. 11 of his 15 wins are via submission. 2 of his 4 losses are via knockout. And he does have a 3-inch reach advantage. Now, I do think this should be a high-paced striking battle. Would be surprised if it went to the decision. But Michelle, however the fuck you say it, he brings it, dude. He'll walk forward, walk Kyle down. Kyle, to give him credit, does have solid power, has good striking. I think Michelle Pereira is just going to overwhelm him, and Kyle's going to have to resort to wrestling. If the fight goes on longer, Kyle could potentially gas him out. But I am taking Pereira. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Wake up, have some coffee, tune into the on-demand fights. Excited for this one. We get Rong Zhu, 25 years old with a 26-6 record, taking on Austin Thud Hubbard, 33 years old with a 17-9 record. Now, both of these men have had second chances in the UFC, but Rong Zhu is only 25, and Austin is trying to turn it around. One last run in the UFC. A loss here might be the end of the road for him. So a lot on the line. I do think both men are pretty well-rounded. It's going to be a dogfight. I'm excited for this one. Breaking it down, Rong Zhu trains out of City Kickboxing. He's on a 1-fight winning streak and is 4-1 since 2023. 15 of his 26 wins are via knockout, 6 via submission. So 21 of his 26 wins via finish, and 4 of his 6 losses are also via submission. So to submit or be submitted. Now, Austin trains out of Elevation Fight Team. He has a purple belt in BJJ. He's an LFA alum and former champion. He's on a 2-fight losing streak and is 1-3 since 2023. 5 of his 16 wins are via knockout. Now, I think Rong Zhu is going to have the boxing technique advantage, probably the faster striker. Austin, he's durable. I think he's going to look to take Rong Zhu down, but I don't expect him to be able to keep Rong Zhu down. And if he can't control the wrestling game, he's going to get pieced up on the feet and worn out over the course of 15 minutes. For that reason, I'm taking Rong Zhu. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Lonnie Kavanaugh, 26 years old with an undefeated 9-0 record, taking on Charles Energy Johnson, 34 years old with a 17-7 record. Man, I love me some Charles Johnson. What a veteran, company man, active, short notice, it doesn't matter. He keeps being booked against the best young studs, man. I mean, Yoni Kavanaugh, I am super high on. I do think the big difference, though, for Charles this time is Yoni's got some great grappling, and he is very aggressive. He's also showcased great cardio this far in the UFC. He had wars against Felipe dos Santos and another young up-and-comer, Jose Ochoa. But Charles isn't going to be able to let him gas out and take advantage late in the fight like he had against other people. You know, Charles, very underrated. I think he's very talented. But Yoni is kind of the next level, in my opinion. He already has a very impressive resume. He's only 26 years old. So this is going to be a great fight. Breaking it down, Yoni trains out of Great Britain top team. He's a Cage Warriors and Contender Series alum. He's undefeated on a 9-fight winning streak, 3-0 in the UFC, and 4 of his 9 wins are via knockout. Now, Charles trains out of Murcielago MMA. He has a blue belt in BJJ. He's an LFA alum and former champion. He's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 5-4 since 2023. 7 of his 17 wins are via knockout. He has a 3-inch reach advantage and a 3.5-inch leg reach advantage. Now, I personally think Kavanaugh is going to be the one closing the distance and being aggressive with the pressure, and maybe even look to try and take Charles down. But Charles is savvy, man. You know, he's going to have to weather the early storm, but as the fight wears on, I could see him finding his openings. And especially if it gets into round 3, Charles is a great counter striker. He also has good technique. He can offensively grapple himself, so don't count him out. But for the sake of picking, I'm taking Yoni Kavanaugh. I'm avoiding this on any parlays, but the name to watch is Yoni Kavanaugh. This kid is the absolute real deal. Moving on to the main event, or to the main card, excuse me. We have Sergey Pavlovich, 33 years old with a 19-3 record and the number 3 next to his name, taking on Waldo Salsa Boy Cortez Acosta, 33 years old with a 14-1 record and the number 6 next to his name. Now, Sergey Pavlovich is an absolute unit and monster. Waldo has earned this fight from a split decision against a different Sergey that I actually thought he lost the fight. So now he is taking on a guy who has steamrolled his way through the UFC. He did get wrecked by Tom Aspinall. I think Volkov taught him some lessons. But I think Sergey Pavlovich is way more talented than Waldo, and we'll see that on full display in this fight. I'd be shocked if it made it through the scorecards. But breaking it down, Sergey has an orthodox stance. He trains out of Eagles MMA. He has the longest first-round knockout win streak in UFC history with 6 of them things. He's a Fight Nights Global alum and former champion with 1 successful title defense. 15 of his 19 wins are via knockout. 2 of his 3 losses are also via knockout. Life as a heavyweight, to knock out or be knocked out. But this is insane. He has a 14-inch reach advantage. I mean, sheesh. Now, Waldo, he has a boxing and BJJ style. He has a blue belt in BJJ. Why did they say BJJ style? I'm not saying that. Waldo does not have a BJJ style. I have my blue belt in BJJ. Yeah, he has a boxing style. He's a rough Bellator Contender Series and LFA alum. He was an LFA champion. He's on a 5-fight winning streak, 5-1 since 2023. 6 of his 14 wins are via knockout. Now, not only does Sergey have the power advantage, but he has the long reach. Waldo might have a slight speed advantage, but I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, the big thing is going to be for Pavlovich to not be overly aggressive like he was against Volkov, put himself in a bad spot or tire himself out. He hasn't been out of the first round many times before. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. But I expect a clinic here by Sergey Pavlovich. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We get Brian T-City Ortega, 34 years old with a 16-4 record and the number 4 next to his name. Taking on Aljamain, the Funk Master Sterling, 36 years old with a 24-5 record and the number 7 next to his name. Now this really is an amazing co-main 5-round showdown. We get the former bantamweight champion and a consistent contender in the featherweight division. You know, Aljo has mostly been successful at featherweight, but he gets another massive challenge as Brian is still in his prime at 34 and looking to rebound after a beating a year ago. Before that, he has only lost to Volkanovski and Max Holloway, and we know how deadly those two are. There is a lot on the line for both men here, 34 and 36 in their primes. You know, Brian kind of needs to prove he still belongs in the top of the division. And if Aljo wants to fight for a title, he really needs to stack up wins in the division as well. Breaking it down, Brian has a first-degree black belt in BJJ. 6 of his last 9 fights have been performance of the night or fight of the night. He shows up, he shows out. He's tied for the second most finishes in UFC featherweight history with 7, tied with Ricardo Llamas and Cub Swanson. He was the 2017 Breakthrough Fighter of the Year, had the 2021 Fight of the Year against Alexander Volkanovski. He's an RFA alum. 8 of his 16 wins are via submission, and 2 of his 4 losses are via knockout. Now, Aljo has a submission grappling and wrestling style. He's got a black belt in BJJ. He has a D3 wrestling background out of Cortland. He's the former bantamweight champion with 3 successful title defenses. He was also the first UFC champion to win by disqualification. He has the most consecutive title defenses in UFC bantamweight division history with 3. He's tied with Dominic Cruz and Renan Barão for second most title fight wins in UFC bantamweight division history with 4. It's a tough division to stay on top of. He has the most wins in UFC bantamweight history at 14. He's tied with Dominic Cruz for most wins in the WEC UFC bantamweight history with 14. He has the second longest win streak in bantamweight history at 9. He had the 2018 Submission of the Year against Cody Stamann, the 2020 Submission of the Year against Corey Sandhagen, and the 2022 Comeback of the Year. He's a Ring of Combat, Cage Fury alum, and former champion with 3 successful title defenses. He's been on top for a long time, and 8 of his 24 wins are via submission. Now, I do think Aljo is going to have the offensive wrestling and striking advantage. Brian does have good boxing, but he just hasn't been the one to close the distance and really let his hands fly. I don't think Brian could just use his boxing to win. Aljo has awkward movement and striking of his own. You know, maybe Aljo does get overzealous with his grappling and Brian finds a submission opportunity, but I do expect this to be a 5-round war. Whoever has been more dialed in the gym, has better cardio, and has taken this seriously, I think will take the fight. I just think Aljo has a skill advantage. For that reason, I'm taking Aljamain Sterling, but I'm avoiding this on any parlay where possible. Then in the main event, China's own Zhang Mountain Tiger Mingyang, 27 years old with a 19-6 record and the number 14 next to his name, taking on Johnny Walker, 33 years old with a 21-9 record and the number 13 next to his name. Now, Johnny has struggled at the light heavyweight. You know, he has not lived up to his hype. He's in the middle of his prime at 33. You can't take a loss to a young up-and-comer like Mingyang, but he's in enemy territory. I mean, Zhang has showcased his potential as a kickboxer. He hasn't faced stiff competition. And I don't know how good he is against grappling, but Johnny's not going to grapple. I expect a very high-paced striking clinic, and I do think we'll get a finish before the scorecards come. Breaking it down, Zhang has a Sanda style. He trains out of Extreme Couture. He has a blue belt in BJJ. He's a road to the UFC alum. He's on a 12-fight winning streak, 3-0 in the UFC. 13 of his 19 wins are via knockout, 6 via submission. So all 19 of his wins via finish. And 3 of his 6 losses are via knockout. Now, Johnny has a brown belt in BJJ. He's a Jungle Fight and Contender Series Brazil alum. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's 2-2-1 since 2023. Every time I see Johnny Walker, I just think of him being weird at that Abu Dhabi or the Saudi Arabia fight. They're like, Johnny, where are you? He's like, I'm in the desert. And they called the fight. Johnny Walker is something else, or doing the worm and separating his shoulder. But hey, 16 of his 21 wins are via knockout. 6 of his 9 losses are also via knockout, to finish or be finished. And he is rocking a 6.5-inch reach advantage and a 2.5-inch leg reach advantage. I mean, talking about those things, Johnny is too much of a kill or be killed fighter. He never seems to follow a game plan or think much in the octagon. I mean, if he actually used his tools, his length, was patient, used the kicks, movement to avoid the power of Zhang, I could see him outpointing Zhang, potentially get a finish later in the fight. I just don't have any faith in Johnny Walker doing any of those things. He's going to welcome a clang and bang fight with Zhang, do stupid spinning techniques and flying knees when they don't make sense. You know, Johnny's been knocked out twice since 2024. I'm just not confident he could take the damage either. Zhang's a big, powerful cat. You know, Johnny also thought about moving up to heavyweight. I'm not too sure what happened to all of that. But for it being an enemy territory and the sake of picking someone, I'm taking Zhang Mingyang. But just watch out. I'm telling you, Johnny Walker's going to do some crazy shit. But we are taking Mingyang. We're putting him on that parlay. Mark that ish down, and we get that bread. Johnny, where are you at? I'm in the desert, dude. Or him walking out of Vegas in his fight shorts, no shoes on. Like this dude, something else. But hey, for a fight night card, early morning action, keeping us active, can't complain. Michelle Pajeda, Rong Zhu, Austin Thubber, that's a big fight. Yoni Kavanaugh, Charles Johnson, sick fight. Sergey Pavlovich, fun to watch. Brian Ortega, Aljamain Sterling, I mean, massive fight. That should be the main event in my opinion. But you got to support China, I get it. Decent main event. But hey, we got to enjoy it because then we're off for Labor Day weekend. I'll be headed to Vegas for my fantasy draft. Got the Steelers shit rocking, ready for the season. That discount double check, Aaron Rodgers, you know what I'm saying? So enjoy the week off. You know, there's definitely a lot on the line in a solid Paris card. The headliner, again, I think will be the title eliminator as number 1 ranked Nasruddin Imavov takes on 6th ranked Caio Baralho. That's episode 112. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.